Well, hello everyone, it's Anna, also known as Book Anna, and today I am going to do what I read during the summer. I'm just gonna get straight into it. I, as you can see, have my new setup. This is the first video in which you could actually see my bookshelves behind me. I have a few books, not a lot, but enough, and I'm going to go through what I thought about them quickly. I'm going to go from the least liked book to the most liked book that I read during summer. So the first one, sadly, is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. So you know when you have like melted cheese and you are pulling it? So yeah, so this book was like that, but when you get to some point, it kind of just starts breaking, and then you just have like these two halves of cheese and a lot of strings that are not connected. Because this book was way too long. That's my way of saying it was way too long. It was 5 and something hundred pages. Got lost in like 300 page mark. I was fine with it being done because I felt like it could have been done, but it was not done. Author said, no, I'm gonna continue this for another 200 pages. And then like last few chapters were just, I didn't even felt like it was the same story. It felt like completely different story, and that's why the cheese thing, It was connected to some point, but then just was two halves that didn't really connect with each other. That's how I felt about it. And I'm sad because I wanted to like this book, but I didn't, and that's okay, because not everybody has the same book taste and not every book is for everyone. But yeah, that's definitely the worst book I read this month. So the second book I have is a short story collection, and this book was quite a roller coaster for me because some parts of it I really enjoyed, and then some parts of it I really did not enjoy at all, because some short stories were great, others I hated. And that would be Ghost Stories of Henry James. Wow. So the least favorite books currently on my list for today are the books that I had the longest on my physical TBR, and the ones that I liked the most are the newest ones. So, well, that says something about my book taste. Ghost Stories of Henry James. I talked about them in my first video, I even think, and I read by then 3 to 4 stories, I think, or maybe even just 2. But I enjoyed the first few, and then the main one, which was the reason why I bought this book in the first place, was Turn of the Screw, and I didn't like that one at all. I really didn't, but there was one that I really enjoyed, and I just have to find how it's called.
One eternity later.
My favorite story was The Friends of the Friends. It was about a man and a woman who never got a chance to meet, and there was this mutual friend, this woman who was their mutual friend, and she wanted them to meet, but they couldn't, and then something happened. But it was really amazing. That one was the best one, definitely, and The Turn of the Screw was okay, but nothing special. I don't have anything else to say about it because I will not talk about every short story in it. So if you want to read it, but I would not recommend the collection, maybe just a story that you want to read. The next book I have is Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I read this book in a blog, and I did enjoy it, but not like, oh, this is a great book, but I find it cute. I cannot rate this book because it's nonfiction. I don't usually rate nonfiction. I don't know how to. I did enjoy it because it was a pretty short read, but as I said in a vlog, I felt like everything that was said in this book I already knew from my physics class, or I heard in interviews with him, because this book is literally word for word what he said in some of those interviews. So I just could find the interview clip and then just watch that. I know that it's for people who do not know astrophysics, but I also feel like it's more like for children, like middle school children, because I did feel the narrative style was on a younger side. So it was fine. I'm glad that I read it, but would I recommend it if you're interested in astrophysics? Probably not. Probably there are better books to read. There are books that explain it with more adult perspective and more not that you're stupid so I'm going to dumb it for you kind of way. I would not recommend it, but I'm glad I read it finally. The next book I have Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen, and this book I bought because I heard it is a Viking romantasy. Me and romantasy don't get along as well as I would want to, but I wanted to give it a try, and I can say that I will definitely pick up the rest of the series, not because I thought this book was amazing and I loved it so much, but just because I kind of feel like it's a fun series, it's a fun romantasy for me. I did enjoy the banter between our two main characters. One thing that I didn't like about this book is it says that it's a Viking fantasy and it does have Celtic culture elements and, Viking elements, but I just felt at some points that the author just watched the Viking series on Netflix and then literally pulled scenes from the episodes of that series and put it in a book. It was really surface level culturally, and I think the author can definitely dive a little bit deeper in it. The names of our two main characters are just she wrote Viking names and then put Freya and what's his name? Bjorn, right, of course it's Bjorn. The thing I did like is the magic system and how it incorporates their religious beliefs and everything. I did like that, and as I said, banter between our two main characters I did also enjoy. All in all, a fine romantasy series. I am going to probably pick it up. Well, I will definitely pick up the next one when it comes out. Okay, the next book I have is another book that was disappointed. I was disappointed in it. And I don't even know how to say what book it is because it hurts me. That would be Maeve Fly by C.J. Leede, the book that I felt like home when I looked at it. I don't feel like home when I'm looking at this book. The cover I find really intriguing and I find it really cool. So, oh god, I was so sad because I think I put it in my head by myself that I will really enjoy it and that it was going to be my new favorite book. And it wasn't, and now I'm quite sad because of that. I just expected a lot more. This book is probably the gruesomest book I ever read. As I said, I just started getting a little more into horror genre, so I didn't read a lot of gross things. This one is probably the grossest book I ever read because there's a lot of parts in which she talks in detail about human parts that, she's a killer. I don't think that's a spoiler. There's a lot of killing in this book, which I actually did not mind that part that much. The part that I did mind, however, is the whole sexual thing, like sexualized things in it. I didn't like that at all. I'm sad. I expected more. I don't think it's a bad book per se. I just felt like I thought about it as something great, and then it wasn't that great. It was just average. But I saw a lot of people on Goodreads have the same feelings as me in reviews. It is a character-driven story. We are in our main character's head the whole time, and there is not the main event that happens. So we just follow her through these few days during Halloween time. I didn't meet her as well as I wanted to, and then the end was just okay, okay. I'm not gonna be talking about that anymore. Just I'm gonna cry. Onwards, all of these books I didn't put in any kind of order. There's just books from 3.5 to 5 stars. I do have like last 3 books that those are in order, but like these middle ones are not. First book I don't have this book with me, but that would be What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. And this is now part of the series. I believe there's a second book out that I haven't read yet, but it is on my list, definitely. I heard about this book when it came out. I believe it came out like 2 years ago. I heard about it then, and I really wanted to pick it up since then. I just never got the chance, and then I found the audiobook, and it's been on my list, and then I just realized, maybe I should finally read it. So I did, and I did enjoy it quite much. Maybe it's just the audiobook, but I was really immersed in it. I liked the characters, I liked the plot, I liked where this book took place, house that is kind of falling apart. I love those kind of things. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I did talk about it in a vlog. I would recommend it. All of the books going forward, I would definitely recommend. The next book is another kind of old-time horror book, but not completely, like maybe fantasy with little horror in it, but it's like in the Victorian age, and that would be Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. And this one is retelling Frankenstein. Well, not completely retelling, but inspired by Frankenstein, definitely. We are following our main character, and she is a scientist. The science branch that she's in is geology, and her husband is also a scientist, because they're in this age where women couldn't do that as their job. She can just be behind everything, and she draws for him, but she definitely has brains for it, and maybe she's definitely smarter than her husband. She finds this letter. She finds a letter that is from her grandfather, and he's talking in this letter about his brother that had disappeared somewhere in Antarctica. And we know that if you read Frankenstein, which I did, Victor Frankenstein ended up in Antarctica, and on North Pole. And yeah, on the North Pole, I'm sorry, when he tried to catch Frankenstein's monster. First half of it, I would say, was a little more boring. It was slow paced, and then the second half I really got into it. I liked that it had like a touch of feminism in it, but not too on the nose. Definitely that was a plus for me. The sapphic relationship was a plus for me. So yeah, definitely if you're looking for some kind of retelling of old classics, I would recommend this one. I know there's a lot out there, but I think this one is quite good. The next book I have, now these books, next 3 books I already talked about, so I'm just going to go over them quickly, but the next one I have is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I talked about this one in my Italy vlog. I enjoyed it a lot. It's a first cozy fantasy that I read, and I really enjoyed it. I was so happy when I was reading it. I just would recommend this book if you... I think it's a well-known book for a reason. I think that everybody talks about it for a reason. I liked, again, the banter between our 2 main characters and the way their relationship evolved. It was just really natural. It didn't feel like it was rushed or anything. I just loved that part, and I loved how it talked about the most mundane things, like making a pastry and then putting it on a menu. I love that, and I, again, definitely will pick up Bookshops and Bone Dust because it's about books. And the next one is Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angress. It didn't disappoint. I had big expectations for it, and it did what I wanted it to do. I picked up this book because it kind of falls into this genre of fiction books that are in New York, and you have like this New York feel with like really wealthy people, and then some people that are quite like a bit poor, and how they live these lavish lives in New York. And they're artists, and I love that kind of genre because it's something that I will probably never experience, so it's cool to read about it. It really reminded me of Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malore, just because the whole New York, thing. So if you like that one, I would recommend this one if you haven't read it yet. The next one, I think I talked about Like, I had a whole segment in my first reading vlog, and that is Post-Yugoslav Literature and Film by Gordana Crnković. I said everything that I wanted to say about this book. It opened a new door for me, definitely, because now I know that I like this genre of books, like film talk in books, non-fiction books, and literature talk. And I would recommend this book to everybody. Balkan films, it's like their own genre. I think you can really recognize them. They're completely different from American films. The way they're filmed, the way the scenario is, the comedy in them, the whole, the themes of them are completely different. I know it's not a book that a lot of people pick up. I'm the only one on Goodreads that rated it, that actually read it. Maybe people that read this book are just not on Goodreads or on internet. Please read it. The next one I have is Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. Did enjoy it quite a lot. As you can see, it's one of my top reads for summer. Definitely, I read it in a bus on the way to Zagreb from Dubrovnik because it was like a night bus and we were driving for 10 hours, so I had quite a lot of time. I read it really fast. Sapphic, classic, horror, vampire book. So I'm really happy that I read it finally. I enjoyed this twist on Dracula. I would recommend it if you want to read a horror vampire book and you don't have time. This is a novella and it's really easily read. So definitely great. It was really fun to read also. Carmilla, great. Vampires, great. Twilight, not great. Books. The final book I have is actually Monstrilio, which is the best book I read in the month of August and in the month of July. I loved it. I think it is now one of my favorites. I think it comes into that category, definitely, which I didn't have that many books this year that I can put in that category, but this one definitely gets in. I didn't know what to expect about this book. I talked about the premise a lot, how grieving and a mother who lost her child and then she keeps a piece of his lung, and from that lung grows Monstrilio. I did not expect how the second part of the book will be. So the book, I'm not going to talk about the book too much because I don't want to spoil it, because I think that I will recommend to everybody that even, wants to read it a little bit. I would just go for it, I will lend it to you. The book is written in parts from 4 perspectives. We have a mother's perspective, a friend of mother's perspective, a father's perspective, and then the little Monstrilio perspective. I think I liked the Monstrilio perspective the most, and it's the end of the book. There's grief and the talk about losing a child, and it put it into this story in which it is still hard-hitting and it's not a topic you want to talk about, but it was just so well done that I didn't feel overwhelmed with it. Whole cast of characters, everybody, I loved them. Like, everyone in this book was such a good character, even like characters that were in it for a chapter or two, like a maid or somebody. I loved everybody in this book. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. It is going to be one of my favorites by the end of the year. And this one, I had big expectations and it delivered. It delivered completely. It made everything that I wanted it to be. It was, and even more so. That's what I wanted from Maeve Fly. Maeve Fly didn't deliver. This one did. Like, top-notch delivered. There you go. That is what I read during summer. I'm still really happy with books that I read because there are not a lot of books that I would say are not good on this list. So I'm happy that I read the books that I read. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you for watching others of my videos. If you haven't subscribed, you can maybe do it. That's it of this video. And I'll see you in my next one. Keep reading what your heart desires and how much your heart desires. Bye.